one of the reasons why this process was engaged in the first place was to bring those divergent interests together, and I think we accomplished that. In my 24 years down there, 20 years ago, the whole concept of being able to put a BLM land manager with a county commissioner and an environmental conservation organization at the same table just did not happen. They were so divided and divisive in their stances that they wouldn't even sit around a table together. And that has changed dramatically. And I think Vision Dixie did a big part of bringing those divergent interests together so that at least they sit around the table, know who each other are, talk together civilly, and accomplish good things. So yeah, I think that it did bring a lot of divergent issues together. There are still a lot of the people out in the community that aren't the leaders, that aren't the elected officials, that aren't in the Chamber of Commerce, just the Joe citizen out there. They're still wondering, so what did Vision Dixie do? What difference has it made in our communities? Just one circumstance, and it's nothing that we could control. The economic decline and the recession hit right at the time we laid out Vision Dixie processes. And we went from doing almost 1,000 permits a year in that county to less than 200 in a year. And that decline really stopped a lot of what would have been good development examples out there where we could have engaged in more sensitive kinds of planning processes. Well, we just haven't had any. The planning commissions aren't dealing with subdivisions at the same scale. So we don't know whether or not these ideas are going to have really taken seed because we just haven't seen any examples out there in the communities yet. I can tell you one good example. In Washington County, we have a new belt route that's being developed. It's called the Southern Corridor, and we have a new freeway scale arterial road now that starts at milepost 2 and goes out to where the new airport is going to open up in a year. And that segment's done. That's planned to be a belt route that will eventually end up in Hurricane as time goes by. The owners of the last 2,500 acre parcel between Highway 9 and Hurricane and this beltway that's going to come have decided that they don't like this. It's the equivalent of I-215 in Salt Lake, that kind of a freeway scale road going through their property. They want to literally drop that kind of traffic into a network of surface streets through their 2,500 acre development. And it's going to be a major challenge. You've got UDOT, who's already done the environmental impact statement for that beltway. They've got a corridor, they have a design, a lot of inertia there saying this is the way it's designed and this is the way it's going to go through your property, and trying to decide if we are going to drop that beltway into a network of surface streets. It'd be an interesting case study to see if these principles will apply. So that's one good example. Other questions? Marcy? The fact that Vision Dixie is in place and that we have the principles is a good selling point and has helped in a lot of processes. A good example is, I think the fact that Vision Dixie was there helped with the future study that the Utah State University students did in the Zion Canyon corridor, and it's helped develop the beginning points of what is going to be a corridor management plan for that area. And I think that Vision Dixie did have a lot to do with showing that we were ready to engage in that process and get that funding. That's one good example of it. Summer?
Ken, what's your view on the forum tomorrow, that group?
thank you for bringing that up, because it is on my handout and I didn't talk about it. Thanks. Form Tomorrow is a nonprofit organization created by a local architect in Washington County. His name's Peter Stemple, and he has a great vision for getting assistance out to those communities, especially the small rural communities who don't have professional planning staff. And in the past, the Association of Governments played that role to a limited extent, but as you heard Brian say this morning, most of that planning assistance was funded by community development block grant money. And the reality in Washington County is 20 years ago, more than half of our communities qualified and we could go out and help them. But now in Washington County, 2 out of 19 still qualify for that kind of assistance. So 5 county planners can't get out there and do that assistance because there's just no funding source. So Peter Stemple's group Form Tomorrow has filled that gap. And we do have foundation funding that's gone into this nonprofit organization, and he's been able to get professional planning staff out there into the small communities. And we've worked in that organization so far mainly with Leeds and New Harmony so far to provide that planning expertise to make those revisions in their planning documents that are so vital. So that is a great model that I think y'all need to think about, is having some kind of a nonprofit organization who can provide that kind of assistance long term here in your region. So thank you for bringing that up. Any other questions? All right, well, thanks again for inviting me. I've enjoyed my time here, and wish you all the best as you engage in this regional planning effort here around Bear Lake. Thanks.